Hey, hi, this is Sandeep, and in this tutorial also I'll be explaining you the leftover parts of validations. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Here I have got first name. Let's say I want to say new validator. Okay, I already explained this compare. Okay, what, and with the compare I already explained all these kinds of things. Okay, now I'll select this length. Okay, length is a simple thing with which you can length also actually I have shown you here. Okay, so now let's say list. So when you say list, first name in literal values. Okay, if you want to provide a list of static values, you can give that over here. Now if you want to have a query result, right, then now you can write a query. You can query any table for which you have created EOVO or you have not created. Even you can write any query which would hit the DB and will get one column. Okay, suppose you write a query which returns one column with many records. Okay, so that will be generally a list. So this first name will be validated if that is present in or not in that return list, right? Because you are returning only one column. If you write a query which returns multiple columns and multiple rows, then the first column will be taken into account, and all the records which are present in the first column, that will be taken and a list will be created out of that, and then first name in or not in will be validated against that list. Okay, if you go to view object attribute, then here you can say you can select any attribute. So let's say this one you have selected. Obviously you don't want to validate against first name versus department name, but I'm just showing you if there had been any other views over here which would have this first name also, you could have selected that. Now it says that query this department name, all the list, make a list of all the department names present in this view, and then validate it against this first name in or not in, this kind of a thing. Okay, this whole list. If you select view accessor attribute, now I don't have any view accessor attribute. You can go ahead and create a view accessor over here. Let's say in the employees table I want a view accessor over this department view. Okay, I've created one over here. Now if you go to the business rule, and if you click on new validator, now you can select list and then view attribute. Now you have got this attribute. You can say that I want to validate against this list. I mean, in the employees you have got this accessor through which you have the access to all these columns. Now I want to validate in this fashion. Let's say first name in this list, pull the department names from the department view through this accessor. Okay, and then validate. So I'm just demonstrating you because this list was just similar to the compare, just somewhat functionalities are changing. That's what I'm trying to explain you. More or less they are pretty much similar, so I'm not demonstrating you all the way around. I'm just explaining you what happens with these options. Okay, so right now we are in this, I mean this wizard has come because of this clicking here and then going to the new validation, right? So this is an attribute level. You can define the same thing from here also, just the difference is that it will be an entity level validation. You can say length or compare length or list. So here if you say employee ID in, if you can select here, you have a drop down. There you were defining only on the first name, so you didn't have the drop down over there. So here you can say first name in, then again all those things, query result or view object attribute or view accessor attribute. So it's all same, just the difference is that here you are defining it against this validator. So let's see what are the other options available. Key exist I'll explain you a bit later. Length I've already explained. List I've taken method already in a tutorial I showed you. Range, you can define a range. Let's say this first name between or not between. You can define it on salary basically. Let's say a range of salary, it should be between or not between this range. Okay, this will be validated in that way. And regular expression let's say you define that email should match this regular expression whatever you write here. Already there are two formats available over here, so you can write your customized format of the regular expression also here, and this email whatever is entered by the user will be validated against that. If you select this predefined email address and say use pattern, the pattern will come over here. So now this email will be matched with this kind of a regular expression. Okay, so what are the other options available? Email regular expression, this is a script expression. So script expression, what it would do, it would actually here you can enter groovy expression to validate whatever you want to validate. I'll try to take one more tutorial explaining you deep about the groovy expressions, so I'll just skip this one now. So here you have got key exist, right? So I want to explain you key exist. Key exist can be defined from here also, and can be defined on a particular attribute present over here also. So both are same, just the thing is it will, when you go in the entity level, it will provide you whole kind of a drop down where you want to, I mean, the both wizard will look like same, only some similar, some differences will be there, that will be pretty much understandable. So let's say that I want to define, I want to say, let's say that I want to say that whatever department ID is entered by the user, it should be validated. It should be validated against the list of all the department IDs present in the department table. Okay, so I will say, I can here also go ahead and say this new validator, this wizard would come, or in the entity also I could go and say. Okay, so here I will say key exist. Now key exist entity object, or it will ask you existing check definition. Okay, so I'll say I want to define with the this entity object, and here you have got two association. I'll select this association because this association is the one which gives the primary key and the foreign key relationship. So this is the entity which is going to be validated, department ID. This is the column department ID of the employee table, and it is going to be validated against this target. It says that whatever you enter over here should be already present over here in this target attribute, that is department ID of the department table. Okay, so that's what it says. Now you can, okay, this is one way, and I say execute at entity level, and I say when this department ID changes, and I say the message that department ID not present in department table. Okay, that's what I say. So I'll say okay, and let's say it how it runs. So here I have 240. I'll enter this 901 over here, which is not even present, which is invalid, and I click this validate. It validates department not found in department table. So this key exist is working in that fashion. Okay, now you have another drop down over here, view object. When you click view object, there's a whole this kind of a wizard, sub wizard comes in which you can say that you can select department ID from here, and this is going to be validated against this. Okay, so you have to select it over here what is to be validated, and against what you have to select it over here. You have to click add. Okay, it adds over here. So this is another kind of a validation through the view object. It is going to be validated through the view object. The main logic remains same. Okay, so again it is going to validate and give you the same result, just the difference is that it's now other way around. So you click employees over here, you enter a department which is not present, you tab out, nothing happens, but when you click validate, it's an entity level validation, it gets fired, department ID not present. So now also it's working fine. What is the third option present? View accessor. Click on view accessor, you you have got this view accessor over this. So I want to validate this one, this column against this. Click add, it will be added. So this is going to be validated against this column through this accessor. Okay, click OK and run it. So here click on employees and you try to give something which is not available, click validate, again this is triggering, right? So this is all about the key exist validator, which works in this way. So one thing more I would like to tell you, that whatever validation rule you define over here, you can go to the validation execution and you can provide some kind of a expression, groovy expression over here, which would tell the validation when to fire. Okay, so as you see right now, department ID you changed and it gets fired, right? You can say when email is equal to some email as king. Okay, so what it would do, that it would fire this validation only when email is equal to this. Okay, it would fire this validation only against this, and only against these records when you change this department ID. So that's what it means. So you can provide the values over here by which it can decide that when to fire this validation. Okay, now I will show you one more kind of a validator, which is called as collection validator. Okay, one thing to remember is that collection validator will only appear on the entity level. Okay, here it will be available. If you try to go on the entity level, it won't appear in this drop down. Okay, one thing is this. Okay, so let's say we have a business scenario that in a particular department there should not be employees, there should not be more than 3 employees. Okay, so right now we will go to the SQL Developer. We will see, we will run this query. Okay, as we run this query, I take this and it is returning this. The result of this query tells me that in this department these many employees are present. Okay, how it returns? It returns from creating a join between these two table and having the join column as department ID. Okay, and grouping it with the help of department ID. So for each department ID, it's gonna count how many employees are there, and it's gonna display over there. So that's how this query has been designed, and this is the result of this query. Okay, so now I want a business scenario in which I am iterating through the departments, and I want to let the users know that in this particular department number of employees are greater than 3. Okay, so I am in the department, so obviously I need to define some validation over here, and I can do that with the help of collection validator, which will appear only in entity validators. Okay, this type of validation collection. So collection should be there. So now from the department I selected this collection type. Now I want to connect to the employees table and count the employees in a particular department. So for that we need kind of some accessor here. Okay, right now there is no accessor. Now if you go, I'm not talking about the view accessor right now. Okay, I'm talking about the accessor which are present in the association. There was association employee department foreign key association. If you open this, you will find this department ID from here present in the department table. Is its destination is over here. This association was derived out of the primary key and the foreign key relationship existing in the DB, and it's a one-to-many relationship where one side there is this department in the department table, department ID, and it maps to many records against the employees table where this employee ID is present. Okay, so and here if you say in the department's EO, in the department's EO, this accessor is present, employees EO1. Just remember that in the department's EO this accessor is present over here. So you have to make this accessor, this behavior, as composite. If you make this composite, only then this accessor, this composite accessor. The thing is, when you are defining a validation over here and saying this collection, this accessor is going to list only the composite accessors. So only when I click that accessor as composite over there, then only it has appeared. Previously it was not appearing, if you remember. Okay, so now I say this collection, I select this accessor, that go to the employees table through this accessor and count all the employees ID. Okay, and check that they should be less than or equal to 2. Okay, so in all I am basically trying to have this kind of a query only. Okay, the only thing is I am checking also. I am going, what I am saying, have the validator as type collection, go to the employees table through this accessor and count all the employees ID and verify that they should be less than or equal to this literal value, which is 2. That is, in a department, everything in a department, these all employees should be less than or equal to 2. We cannot have more than these employees. Okay, and obviously, as you know, this accessor was present in that association, right, in this association. So through this association only, it is going to reach to the employees table through this accessor with this association, and That's what actually the department ID was, the connecting key described in this association, right? So through that association only it will hit the employees table, and then it will try to count or count all the employee IDs. So I say in the failure handling message that department has more than 2 employees. Please shift employees from this department to some other department. Okay, and I don't want it to be error. See here, here the severity is there, error or informational. Whatever you select, this message for sure is going to be displayed if this validation fails, right? But if you select error, then the user will not be able to proceed. Okay, this kind of a message will be displayed and the user will not be able to carry on with the rest of the work. He will be forced to modify the values as per the validation. But if you click informational warning, then this message will be displayed in case this validation fails, but user will be able to carry out and process the changes even if the validation has failed, because this is just the informational warning. Okay, so this is the difference between these two. So I will say I just want to let the user know, I don't want to force him anyway. So I'll just have this and I'll click OK. So now our validation has been defined. Run it, and it is running now. Let's see that in the SQL Developer we have this 10 department is fine, 20 departments having 2 department, 30 department is having the 6 department, right? So on 30 it should give me some error. Now if you go to the department, this is the record. 10 is fine because we know that in 10 number of employees are 1. Okay, and this was our validation, this was our entity level validation. So it will be triggered only when you click on validate, after modifying any one of these. If you click validate, so let's say I say department 0 again, try to validate, try to just modify it just for the sake of modifying, click validate, it's working fine. If you go to the 30, right, if you go to the 30 here, if you try to modify, if you try to make it dirty, and if you try to click on validate, our validation should get fired. Okay, so it gets fired and it is telling you department has more than 2 employees, please shift employees from this department to other department. So this is one of the business scenario in which you need some other you are going to some other table and then doing some evaluation out there in order to validate. So similarly you can select that for this the sum of all the salaries, sum of all the salary should be less than or equal to, or whatever you want to select for this department. Basically this what this validation is saying, that for particular department it will hit the employees table through this accessor from that association, from this association, and it will sum up all the salary and it will check if that is less than or equal to this value. Okay, so again you have this bunch of options over here which I already explained. These are the same which will work in the same manner which I explained you earlier. So this is how this validation, this collection type of validation works over here. So I think this is all about the validation that I could cover in these tutorials. So I'll see you in the next tutorial. I think declarative validations are now finished. Thank you.